All right, Star Tribe in the Divine Light, thank you for tuning in. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to fully decipher what we see here that's encoded in these sacred hieroglyphics and high relief engravings, completely encoded all over this artifact from Ojuelos de Jalisco in Mexico. And now what we're going to do is we're going to analyze some of the imagery that we see. We see correlations to Egyptian mythos. We see Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, right? We see pyramids. We also see, the turtle represented as Anubis, a gatekeeper and a carrier of consciousness into the underworld, the weighing of the heart ceremony, right? Ra, the Egyptian sun god, the Rea, the original ray of light, photonic light as intelligence. And we also see the UFO depicted here with a rare form of alloy, a golden orichalcum, which is an ancient alchemical alloy from ancient Atlantean times. And they understood this as a technology. This was a highly activated elemental composition of alloys that created, a high frequency technology that was built into their architecture, similar to what we see in the ancient buildings, right? All of the buildings that are being destroyed right now, because the buildings themselves hold the fingerprint for this technology. And that's why they're destroying ancient heritage sites, because everything, within our physical reality has an artistic signature. And so whether or not it's the signature of Mother Nature as a divine creator, or the signature of a highly advanced intelligent civilization that understood working in harmony with the architecture, and working in harmony with the architecture in alignment with the planet as an energy vortex, we constantly see that the buildings are working in harmony with the frequencies of this planet. But this piece right here, when we start to decipher what we see, it's a very powerful, almost like a weighing of the heart, an offering of our heart. And on the back side of the tablet, we'll actually see another dimension, right, where there's many different deities. But to me, this is the top of the book, especially because the hieroglyphics read in this direction, right? We notice that flat line on the base of every glyph. And this is a extremely advanced pre-proto-Atlantean glyph system. Now, every single one of these glyphs is so expansive that even one singular extra line could expand on the full sentence that it represents. And the imagery alone, right, they understood how a glyph was deeply encoded. The sigils themselves held full activation. So even just by seeing each sigil, we get activated. And look at how intricate each one of these are. These were created as a labor of love and dedication, and a deeper understanding of how to document information into a material that would withstand the test of lifetimes. So I believe that the creators of this fully understood that what they were creating was like an ancient book, and how they were going to encode their, sacred teachings into stone and have it withstand the test, like I said, of lifetimes. And so we see at the very beginning of this ceremony, there's a pyramid where Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, seems to be offering a ride, the process of ascension, riding the feathered serpent. And we see this being in this crouch position that we see all throughout Egyptian mythology, similar to how we see Isis with her wings open and arms spread, open to enlightenment. And we see up top right here, this is the eye of Ra. And so the original rays of light as intelligence coming in from the sun itself, the sun providing evolutionary codes of consciousness as photonic light and radiation coming down to this planet. Now, as this being is riding the sacred dragon, the Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, right? We see the dragon's head here, and we see the feathers, right, following it all the way down. But we see this being riding and given an opportunity to ride the feathered serpent. Now, right here is one of the Ojuelos deities. We see their face, and they're in a laying down position. Now, notice where their heart is torn open. There's a gap where it's missing. So we know that this is a representation of the heart being offered up to this UFO. And this is, so in a sense, it's almost like a metaphor for the weighing of the heart ceremony, right? And we know that now because down here we see Ra with the weighing scales, the scales that we see depicted throughout the Egyptian mythos when we see the weighing of the heart ceremony. So we know this is some form of a metaphor for the weighing of the heart, but it's interconnected with, what we see throughout Mesoamerica, which is the honoring of Quetzalcoatl as the feathered serpent. And now we also see it interconnected with, Egyptian mythology, where we have Ra, the Egyptian sun god, and we also see Anubis depicted, but in a really unique abstract form, as almost like a turtle carrying consciousness and offering the technology of the UFO, but multi-dimensional piece. And we also see the Atlantean sun god depicted, fractaled around the UFO. And we see, what would be almost like an indigenous vibration that's held throughout all indigenous tribes. They see this beautiful sacred representation of the way that they share art and the way that they fractal the hidden message that's encoded within the art form itself. So now we see, when we take a good look at this is a full, complete, weighing of the heart ceremony, but depicted as a merging of two, past civilizations that have been honored throughout antiquity. Now, we know that they were in communication, right? It's obvious at this point. There is even sacred locations in Egypt. I think it's called Elephantine Island, where we have actual glyphs, high relief Egyptian full engravings that depict, a ritual of exchange with the Egyptians and the Mayans, or what would look like an indigenous being with a headdress on, which they would consider to be Mesoamerican. And so these locations in Egypt are off limits to the public, but we start to see these correlations over and over again. Not only in the ancient artifacts, but also in the geomantic architecture of the pyramids. And we see how the Great Pyramids themselves are in alignment with Orion's belt in Egypt. Now, when you analyze the pyramids in Mexico, in Teotihuacan, we see that exact same alignment occurs, where we see the pyramids in alignment with Orion's belt. So whoever built the pyramids completely understood the alignment, the celestial alignment, and how to anchor in the stars and the constellations that were predominant in the night sky at that time, when these constellations, when the actual architecture was created. And so some believe that if you follow the actual architecture, you can see encoded within it is actually a star map, and a star map that will tell you when the architecture was created. And people made this correlation as well by recent sites that were completed, like the Hoover Dam. And if you look up the Hoover Dam, there's a sacred mosaic star map that's at the base of the dam itself. It's steeped in esoteric messages. We also see inlays of Alcyon as a representation of our central sun, the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which was highly understood by the Mayans as the Hunab-Ku, which was a sacred vibrational glyph, a sigil in itself that represented the sacred vibrational point of creation, which emanated all energy and consciousness from a sacred vortex. And they believed that information was constantly fed down through photonic exchange, right? Alchemy in the cosmos, to gift humanity basically the evolutionary codes of consciousness. And so what's happening at all times is the same way that the sunlight is coming down and we're accessing information, right? The way that we visually access information. We take it in through vibrations as sound, and the brain can articulate, our verbal spoken word. And it's taken in through light, and the same way that the sunlight is reflecting off of this sacred piece right here. And we can then take in information, right? Our eyes translate photonic light. But when you have organic, natural light, like the sunlight that's affecting me right now, you're getting activated by alchemical exchange, where the human body has access to, the evolutionary codes of consciousness from central sun. So this sacred exchange that we're having, right, where we're accessing C14, carbon 14, as a living intelligence. And that all happens as an alchemical transformation, as the light in our outer atmosphere interacts with the nitrogen 14 in the outer rings of the atmosphere, and it alchemizes down into C14. And as it interacts with the oxygen in the atmosphere, we get CO2, and the plants take it in as CO2 and an interaction of photosynthesis. And we access it as we, eat the plants, and we also take in micro particulates of this C14 through our skin and through the breath, right, as we take in oxygen. And so this whole process, right, of how we work with C14 carbon and the photonic light. It's a exchange and it's a transformation of information as light, as in intelligence. And how do we ingest that, right? How do we access it? Well, we access it instantaneously, just by being out in the sunlight, right? And that's why there's, an agenda to block out the sunlight as well. So we don't necessarily have access to the evolutionary codes coming in. Now, I'm kind of just going off on some amazing topics right now that are all correlated, because when you look and analyze these ancient rituals, you start to see that they were encoding a lot of this sacred information into their shamanic rituals. And they were accessing information in a different way. It wasn't limited to, the frequency bands and the limitations of our modern day Akashic records, which we would call, the internet, which is highly programmed and basically very limited. And so the AI, when we talk about the limitations of artificial intelligence, it's a highly programmed algorithmic, AI that runs checks through algorithms and binary codes that have all been programmed into some, super data bank. But that's the limitations of AI. What we have true access to is quantum coherence when we bypass the limitations of the artificial intelligence at this time. And when I say quantum coherence, it means we literally bypass the limitations of the electromagnetic fields and the silicon microchips of our technology that's put us into enslavement, a conscious enslavement. And we go directly to accessing information through the diamond in itself, which is the true quantum tool, the crystal Akashic bridge to give us access to the Akashic records and the quantum field. And notice how intricate and how many different ways they're expressing the importance of this sacred sigil, the divine triangle, divine trinity, which would be the two eyes and the third eye fully open when it creates the divine trinity, the doorways of perception, giving access to information stored in alternate dimensions. Now, once again, we see the golden orichalcum inlaid here, and we've had this tested. It's a extremely advanced alloy with, the rare alloy has up to 9 different elemental metals within it, and it's so highly advanced I can give a further breakdown. I'll do a full video on the orichalcum itself, because this is an ancient alloy, and the most recent time that they actually found a matching alloy with this intricate of an alchemical breakdown was off of a Spanish shipwreck that actually found that had ancient gold that linked back to Atlantis. So it was an ancient form of Atlantean alloy. And so we have matching, alchemical correlations to the alloys. And now this makes more sense to an understanding, a deeper confirmation and understanding of the information on these artifacts. And the more that we get these confirmations is how we create core belief systems. And how do we alter and rewrite, these limited core belief systems that we've integrated into our reality. We have to then test the fabrics of our reality, see what is possible beyond the limitations, and then we start to unlock the true potential. And these artifacts are deeply encoded, like I said, with information on all sides. So it's this just by witnessing and visualizing and being a part of this breakdown, you get to attune to this ancient sacred visual vibration, and these artifacts activate us on a deeper level. So if you could just share, like, and subscribe if you get activated by any of our information. I have a YouTube, Ancient Aztlan. I have an Instagram, my website, ancientaztlan.com, and a TikTok as well, Ancient Aztlan. So thank you very much. I appreciate you all. We'll dive deeper and we'll tune back in very soon. Appreciate you. Okay, divine light to everyone. So welcome back. We're going to do a little bonus, because when you analyze these artifacts up close, you'll start to see subtle little hidden messages. And I've analyzed these artifacts for over 10 years and seen this subtle little secret messages. But if you look up close on this being that's in this Isis-like prayer position, riding Quetzalcoatl, the Feathered Serpent, and involved with a heart ceremony right here, where the heart is being removed and being offered up to the UFO. Now, right here on this being could be another representation of that heart offering, but right here, if you look at this inlay, it's like a reddish stone, and it almost seems as if there was an inlay of a ruby or something in the shape of a heart, right exactly where this deity's heart is. And so they either noticed that this stone was a little bit red, and they worked exactly with the placement of this, high relief engraving to create this a replication of what a heart would look like right here. Now it's hard to get zoomed in to show you, but there's actually a red hue to the stone that's inlaid in there, and of course it's really dirty, but I'm going to see if it has any form of reaction with the ultraviolet light, as rubies have an extreme reaction to the ultraviolet light. But it's just unbelievable. One more little piece of magic that's just deeply encoded within this piece. The fact that they would put or work around this location with the red inlay or impurity. So in the divine light. Appreciate you all for watching. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the bonus. So this is that beautiful location where it looks like it's a depiction of the heart, but in almost like a red ruby-like gemstone. So that's mainly what I wanted to share. It's hard to document these pieces. Notice the feather of Mot up top on the head here. So more confirmations of the Egyptian, goddess Mot here, but super powerful. These things are so steeped in esoteric information. The dragon with the serpent mouth open, and the dragons are also connected to China, and in China we see the Sing Sing Dui artifacts, the 3-star mound. If you look that up, the artifacts look just like the faces of these Ojuelos artifacts. We'll share a quick update on that if we can as well in the divine light. You'll start to see that there'll be inclusions on the artifact, and the artist will actually use those inclusions. And in this one specific, it's unbelievable, because notice in the heart location of this being that's in this position, right, this Isis-like position, but if you look up close, it almost looks like it's a ruby, and I'll have to check it with the ultraviolet light, but it's the shape of a heart, and it's like they inlaid a red stone, or that's just what they actually used in perfect harmony with creating this. Okay, and I just wanted to go into a different room so I could really get a view of the color, and you can kind of really see how it almost looks like a ruby or some form of a reddish gemstone in there. So that's mainly what I wanted to document, and I appreciate you all. Have a blessed night.